Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. With so many people forced to stay at home during the pandemic, technology allowed many of them to keep working. It saw a tech boom in Australia and around the world. But while the share prices of some of the tech stocks have come back slightly from the highs of last year, the tech industry has emerged as a significant economic contributor. Today, the top players in the sector are joining forces to form the Tech Council of Australia, hoping to push the industry to even greater heights. Some of the most successful technology companies are involved, from Atlassian and Afterpay to Canva and Airtasker. Kate Pounder is the Tech Council's formative Chief Executive Officer and my guest this morning. Kate, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Good morning.
So, tell me all about it. What's the Tech Council?
The Tech Council is a new body that's been formed by Australia's tech ecosystem leaders to provide a united voice to governments on tech sector issues. And we think this is a critical time to be providing that voice because the tech sector is now one of the most important pillars of the Australian economy, the seventh biggest source of jobs and the third biggest industry by value. So we think we have a role in working constructively with governments and the community to try and help ensure our sector goes from strength to strength and we keep creating those jobs and those opportunities for Australia.
Okay, so how did it come about? The tech sector in Australia really has found its rhythm in the last 2 or 3 years. I mentioned Atlassian in the beginning, but Afterpay, Canva, Airtasker, their companies in the last couple of years have really come to the fore. And as you say, it's a real force in the economy. Who had the idea that you should all come together?
Well, success has many fathers. So
And
I think this was an instance where there were a lot of people who had the same idea, which was that, as you said, the Australian sector's matured a lot in the last decade in particular. We've had something like over 20 unicorn companies that we've produced in that period. That's companies valued at $1 billion or more. And we're really becoming world-class in some categories of the tech sector, like software as a service, like fintech, like deep tech. So there were a lot of people in the industry who felt it was time to form a single body to provide that constructive voice. The instigator of it, though, the person who really did the hard yards to pull it together, was Alex McCauley, who had led Startup Oz since 2013. And what he'd observed is that in that period, they had successfully worked with governments to create better investment conditions for startups, and that had led to this explosion of growth, if you like, and this wonderful array of new companies. But now many of them were no longer startups. They were Canvas and Afterpays and big global companies in their own right, but there wasn't a natural body, I guess, for them to graduate into.
Okay, so the Tech Council, who is on it? So I mentioned some of those companies, but you've got former federal ministers and all sorts of people, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a broad church. It is chaired by Robin Denholm, who's a partner at Blackbird Ventures, but also chair of Tesla.
Chair of Tesla, yeah.
It's her second role. It has
sorry, Tesla's her second role is what you're saying, isn't it?
Her CEOs of Atlassian, of Canva, of Afterpay. We have Didier Elzinga from Culture Amp. We also have Wyatt Roy, CEOs of Different, and Kate Jones, who's a former state education and innovation minister, and then Alex McCauley as well, who was the founder of Startup Oz.
So that's a very high-powered group to get together. I'd love to be in the board meeting, Kate.
It is a wonderful group to have together, and I think it shows the commitment of people in the industry, and in particular those founders who have now established global companies and are often investing back in the new and emerging companies in the sector. They really wanted to give some of their time and their knowledge and their resources to help the broader sector prosper.
So can Australia become, maybe not Silicon Valley, but Israel? I mean, Israel being the other great tech leader globally in the developed nations at least. Do you think that Australia can kind of develop a community and an education system and a funding system to take its place, maybe not as big as those two places, Silicon Valley and Israel, but certainly kind of in the spectrum somewhere?
Australia's tech sector's already got many of those features. We've got a healthy funding system now, a healthy ecosystem of VCs. In particular, we're raising more and more capital because we're producing more globally successful headquarter companies here in Australia. We're creating more value here, and that's leading to more employees who held shares in those companies, exiting and then going to create their own companies. So we're really starting to see that self-reinforcing growth dynamic that you see in those markets, which is incredibly exciting. But I think we need to aim even higher, as does the tech sector. So we're actually coming out today and making a commitment to have 1 million tech-related jobs in Australia by 2025. And we're also setting a goal that tech sector activity will contribute $250 billion to GDP by 2030. It's currently contributing $167 billion in the last year. And we're making those commitments because we have faith that this is a sector that will keep growing and becoming an ever more important part of the economy and creating ever more jobs.
I know there's been incredible growth in jobs up until now. How many tech jobs are there at the moment?
So today there are 861,000 people working in tech-related jobs in Australia. There were 65,000 tech-related jobs created just during the pandemic. And the rate of jobs growth has been 55% per annum since 2005, which is close to double the rate of jobs growth in the rest of the economy.
Is there a lack of skills then? I mean, that's incredible number of people going into the sector.
Yeah.
And obviously there's demand for those people. Are there enough people doing tech roles?
Skills and labour shortages is one of the biggest challenges facing the sector. So we definitely need more people going into those roles, and that's at every level. We need more young Australians aspiring to work in the sector, perhaps more mums and dads hoping that their kids will grow up to be software engineers one day. We need more people.
Do you reckon you do that? Do you reckon you like over the dinner table say, do you want to be a software engineer and have that sort of conversation? Play cricket for Australia or be a software engineer? I'm not sure, Kate.
Do you know there are more software engineers in Australia today, more developers than there are plumbers or solicitors or hairdressers. It's
really? Wow.
a really common occupation. I think it's something like the 14th most common occupation. It's well paid, it's secure, it's safe, meaningful.
It's got a great future.
All the things that aspire to. Maybe you can have a cricket career first and then your second career can be...
Or the other way around.
A developer. Yeah.
How do you handle organisations, and I'm thinking of Woolworths here, they've obviously bought into Quantium, which is a huge data play and data company, and we spoke to the head of WPay the other day, and that's the payment system part of Woolworths, and he was talking all about, really it's about technology and data. So as an organisation, Woolworths is going down that path, as are the banks, all the retailers. Are they when do they become tech companies, or will they never be tech companies? Can they be part of the Tech Council, for example?
So tech-related activity absolutely occurs outside of tech companies and increasingly is occurring in those other core sectors of the Australian economy, like retail, like banking, like mining, like agriculture. And that's a really good development. That's a good thing. When we talk about tech-related activity, we're not simply talking about jobs in a software company. We're talking about the tech jobs across the economy, including in Woolworths, including in a bank. And, we see that as a positive because those other industries are also critical to the economy, and by adopting tech, they're often making their businesses more competitive. They're also investing, they're also creating jobs. It's all a net positive for the economy.
But that means that we're going to need more people in that sector.
Absolutely.
So we talk about tech sector. It's not just Canva and Atlassian.
No.
It's Domino's Pizza, who totally rely on data to get the pizzas to people quickly.
It really is a critical area where we do need to get more people in. As I said, I think there's almost been a concern in the past that tech was going to erode jobs, whereas if anything, what we've seen is it's creating jobs at a pace that's become harder to fill. So I think the constructive solution is to really focus on attracting more people to the sector, to making sure the training to get into the sector is clear, to make sure the pathways are clear, and then to encourage people to stay, to give them good conditions and, to ensure that the jobs are meaningful. And I think that's a really positive development for the economy, by the way, at a time when we're having debates about low wage growth, and to be creating that number of well-paid, secure, meaningful, high-value jobs in the economy it's a better problem to be struggling to fill them in a way than to not be creating them.
Yeah.
But it is also an important problem to not be able to fill them because that can become a brake on growth.
Stay with me, Kate. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Kate Pounder, CEO of the Tech Council of Australia. Do you think there'll be a time where technology kind of rivals the miners, iron ore and the services sector as the big industry in Australia, one of the 3 or 4, like bigger than manufacturing, bigger than some of those primary industries?
It's already bigger than manufacturing, and we forecast by 2030 it'll be bigger than primary industries in terms of value to the economy. And if you sum up the value of tech sector activity, both directly in the sector but in those other sectors, as you explained before, it's actually already the 3rd biggest sector of the economy by value, just behind banking.
Kate, I won't be asking that question again, just quietly, because I just had no idea it was that big.
And I don't think many people do. And that's understandable because it's hard to measure, particularly, as you said, because it sits across so many other parts of the economy. But that's a reality. And I think once you appreciate that, then, questions about can we be Israel or can we be, this or that country, you start to see, well, in many ways, we're already at a point where it is a critical part of the economy. The question for us is, where do we as a nation want to take it next? And that's why we think setting these goals of 1 million tech-related jobs, creating $250 billion in value, a helpful way for people to visualise what's possible in Australia.
Yeah, and as I think of friends here, effectively they're sole traders, but they're tech people.
Yeah.
And lots of small businesses. We talked about the big guys, but there'd be tens of thousands of small businesses or sole traders, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. Honestly, like every industry in Australia, most businesses in the tech sector are small businesses and sole traders. That's just the nature of most economies, for one, but it's definitely a feature of the tech sector as well. So we hear a lot about the big companies, and they're a huge and important part of the sector, but the bulk of companies in it are small and sole trader companies.
Has the sector got a good relationship, or is this what the Tech Council is about, with government? Because obviously legislation plays such an important role in allowing the sector to grow.
We've had a really constructive reception from both sides of politics to the formation of the Tech Council. We have videos of support as it happens from the Prime Minister, the Opposition Leader, Jane Hume, Ed Husic. And I think that's because governments recognise that the tech sector is a critical part of the economy and increasingly important to many other aspects of life. And it's important for them to have a single body that they can deal with on these issues in order to try and design regulation that's safe and effective and fair, in order to think about how we create the best investment settings for growth, and, to think about the jobs goals we want to set and then how we can partner together to make sure we can get people into them. And I think, therefore, both the industry and government feel the time is right now to put that organisational model in place to allow that more constructive relationship.
Kate, thank you very much. Look, it's such an exciting sector of the economy, and good luck with keeping all those entrepreneurial types on board. Thank you very much for talking to Fear and Greed this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That was Kate Pounder, CEO of Tech Council of Australia, which is launching today. This is a Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join me every morning for the full Fear and Greed podcast with all the business news you need to know. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.